I just saw this. I'm about to go live. Welcome if you're new here, by the way. And apparently this is not good. Not good for DEI and all those terrible, evil, right-wing Republicans who hate DEI. This is just going to feed into their narrative. CNN's reporting that the pilot of that helicopter that I don't know. Did you guys know this? I just found out just now, like seconds ago. All 67 people aboard the American Airlines regional flight, U.S. Army black helicopter, which collided midair Wednesday, were all presumed dead, a grim tragedy. As details of this disturbing catastrophe emerge, additional bodies are identified. Can you imagine being the divers that have to go in and pull up those bodies? Horrible. Female Black Hawk pilot excelled in everything. The female black pilot who was co-piloting the aircraft. Oh, co-piloting. Okay. Whew. Thank goodness. When it collided with the passenger plane, this was driven and hardworking, who was made for Army aviation. The Army officially identified the pilot as Captain, one of the three-person crew inside the U.S. Black Hawk. While the Army released the names of the other two soldiers on board the Black Hawk on Friday, Loback's name had been withheld at her family's request. Yeah. Hope the black boxes shed some more light on this. Jimbo made a cartoon the day after the crash applied to this. Yeah. Tragic. Okay, I want to talk about executive orders today. I've been asked to debate Destiny on executive orders by my buddy Reed in Florida. If you don't know who Destiny is, he's a very popular YouTuber. Number one, I don't think I can because of my work. Number two, I don't know all these executive orders off the top of my head, and so I don't know how productive it'll be. Number three, I've heard Andrew Wilson's going, and I mean, he can debate better than I can. He's done way more of it. So do I go? So I thought maybe I'd play these executive orders that Trump signed, and if someone's willing to come on and argue with me and debate with me, sort of like how Destiny would, I'll try to fight back, see how it goes. Actually, I guess I have to provide the link for that. But we can start out listening to some. And then I want to talk about tariffs and Elon Musk's salute. But here is the link to call in. And all you have to do is click on that link and it should bring you right in here. You'll have to wait and knock on the door, on the virtual door. And then I prefer if you show your face, because Destiny's going to show his face, I'm sure. Although Destiny's been up to some trouble. I'm not sure about the details about that, but I don't really care. Okay, the other day I talked about tariffs, and it caused a big kerfuffle. That's a great Canadian word, kerfuffle. A lot of people didn't like what I had to say, but I was just speaking very common sense-wise that tariffs are primarily a tax on the importer. It's a type of duty that's paid at the border, and then the thought is, okay, this duty is going to be passed on to the consumer, and then the consumer will end up paying higher prices for stuff. And I very calmly and gently said, well, if you have many products in a market, and you're going to choose the lower priced one, usually in all else equal, very similar products or the same products if it's a commodity. And so the whole point of the tariff is to prevent the sale and prevent the consumer from paying the passed on tariff. And that's that. But then I also said tariffs are sometimes a bad thing. When are tariffs a bad thing? I said if you have very few competitors, or that certain product is in low supply and your country needs it, then tariffs are bad, and you shouldn't do it. So even if you're a manufacturing company and your supplier is from Canada, now there's a tariff on it, and now you have to change your whole production line because it's too expensive to buy that one gadget. Well, but if there's an American supplier that can provide it for cheaper, and it's similar enough, then it shouldn't be that much of a problem. But I do admit it's going to be a problem. But here's what you ask people who it's usually left-wing people who hate Trump. They realize that January 6th doesn't work. They've finally realized that you just can't say Trump bad man because of January 6th. So they've moved on to tariffs now. I think that's the big one for them. And so they will say that tariffs are mostly bad for the country that imposes the tariff. So all Trump is doing is he's punishing his own people, and it will cause inflation. If they say that, then what you say in return is, why would any country retaliate if Trump puts a tariff on their country? In other words, Trump has put I think is it tomorrow, Tuesday, Trump will have a tariff on Canada and Mexico. Canada's already said they're going to retaliate. Why? If tariffs are just going to end up hurting the American people more than the Canadian people, why would they retaliate? They would say, go ahead, tariff. You're shooting yourself in the foot. And if you say, well, yeah, but it still hurts the Canadians a little bit, so they're going to retaliate. But if they retaliate with a tariff, they're going to hurt their own people, the Canadian people, more than the American people. So you're just making it worse by retaliating, if that's what tariffs are doing. But that's what tariffs are not doing. Tariffs mostly hurt the country you're putting the tariff on, not the other way around. This is why countries retaliate with the tariffs of their own. Common sense. What else can I say about tariffs? Predictions. My prediction is that the tariffs won't impact the U.S. economy that much. And if they do, they'll be just taken off. My prediction is, I'm not too confident about this one, that it will be short-lived. And part of the reason why Trump is putting the tariff on is because he wants Canada to do better in preventing drugs from coming in from the Canadian side. And he wants Mexico to do better, drugs coming in on the Mexican side. And so he's slapping on these tariffs. So if, let's say, after a week, Trump notices, Canada's taking steps to reducing drugs coming across their border, and Mexico's taking steps to having drugs come across from the south, and then Trump say, hey, tariffs off. Good job, guys. Keep it up. That's probably what's going to happen. And from what I understand, the tariffs, that there's no strict guidelines of Canada making it better so there's less drugs coming in, or same with Mexico. So if they take any step at all to helping the United States with its drug problem, then Trump has justification to say, let's take the tariff off. Well done. You're helping us out. So that's why I'm not too worried. Another reason why I'm not worried is, let's say you never heard about tariffs, never knew that Trump was going to put a tariff on Canada and the United States on Tuesday, and you wake up, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. A veil of ignorance. You don't know this happened. Would you notice a difference in your own life? I posit to you, no. You probably wouldn't even notice. Maybe like 1 in 1,000 people might notice, especially if you're in a business where you really need a product from Canada or Mexico and there's no substitute. Okay, so that's my advice on how to handle people who cry and whine about tariffs and about Trump. You just basically ask them, why would any country retaliate if it's mostly bad for the country imposing? And then go, duh. And those are my predictions about tariffs. They'll probably be short-lived, but who knows? Maybe it won't. What else? Oh yeah, Elon Musk. Elon Musk did that salute the other day, the Nazi salute. I would never do that because it really looks like a Nazi salute. So you could say things like, for people on the left who complain about, see, look what he's a Nazi or Nazi related or associated or sympathizer, whatever you want to say. You could say things like, hey, Elon Musk is a bit crazy, he's eccentric, he's autistic, I've seen Elon Musk jump up and down and show his belly button. Did he plan that? I doubt it. Did he plan that salute? I doubt it. You could say all these things, but I guarantee you for the really wacko, crazy left-wing people, that's not going to satisfy them. So then this is what you do. When they ask you about, what about that Nazi salute by Elon, you just simply say, nobody's perfect. And then you give a little smirk. Because you're not going to dissuade them anyhow. Don't try to alleviate their fears. In fact, if you want to have fun, you would say something like, you better pack your bags. I mean, especially if you're a Jew. I mean, he might come for you. Yeah, I think that's all you have to do. Apparently, Doug has no understanding of basic economics. Hey, Steve, here's the link. You can come in and educate me. There's the link right there. I would prefer, though, to be educated on these executive orders, because I'm sure most of these executive orders from the left's point of view are heinous and terrible. Oh, by the way, terrible. Charles Barkley used to play for the Phoenix Suns. I'm wearing the hat today because I noticed that with my lighting, I have such a big forehead, of course, it glares and reflects. And I think this works better. So I might wear hats sometimes, most of the time. Who knows? Okay, let's listen to some of these executive orders, and I'll just give my take on it and then try to imagine what Destiny would say. I don't know.
You have that other one to sign? Sorry, what's it? You have the other one to sign?
We don't have it over here yet, sir. We'll have it.
By the way, televising the signing of executive orders, I know in the past, I came into the United States, I think in 1996, 1997. And I seem to remember seeing some presidents do this, but not like this. Like Trump is really making a spectacle of signing executive orders, and I think it's brilliant. What he's doing here is he's showing the American people that he's acting, he's doing stuff, he's making changes. Now you can disagree with it and say these are horrible changes that he's making, but you can't say that he's not getting a lot of things done. You can say he's doing things, he's getting things done for evil, but you can't deny he's getting things done. Thank you, Mason Dry. You like my forehead? Well, I also like this hat and the Phoenix Suns, although the Phoenix Suns are sucking. And did you hear about that trade with Luka from Dallas and what's the center's name? I mean, that's an incredible trade from LA. But nobody here cares about sports because, well, very few. Because if you're a left-leaning person, you of course don't like sports because competition makes you feel icky.
The first is the rescissions of 78 Biden-era EOs and presidential memoranda.
You want to call it out?
He speaks in the microphone, so it'll be better.
Oh, if you want me to.
Anthony Davis, thank you, Josh.
Sure. The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
Okay, so if I'm debating Destiny on executive orders, look, this is not going to come up because it's 78. It's the removal of 78 other orders. What are they? I might think that some of those Biden executive orders were actually good, so we shouldn't rescind them. So I don't, you can't really do anything with that.
Thank you, sir. The second item, President Trump, is a regulatory freeze, as you announced in your speech, preventing bureaucrats from issuing any more regulations until we have full control of this, the government and this administration.
I love that. A regulation freeze, no more new regulations. See, people on the right, their attitude is not, hey, government, what can you offer me? No, government, stay out of my face. The mark of success for, at least to a degree, for someone who leans right is no new legislation being passed, or very few things. Whereas on the left, a mark of a successful president is, look at all the legislation he passed. This is a fundamental difference between left and right. And so this executive order of freezing all future regulation I view as a wonderful thing. Hey, Mark Davis, welcome here. Are you guys okay with the trade war Trump started with Canada and Mexico? I say yes, but if you rewind and then go at 2x, you'll catch up to us because I discussed tariffs. You must have just got here. But thank you, Mark Davidson, for coming.
Thank you, sir. The next item, sir, is a freeze on all federal hiring, excepting the military and a number of other excluded categories, again, until full control of the government is achieved and we understand the objectives of government going forward.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
I agree.
Sir, the next item, as you announced in your speech, is a requirement that federal workers return to full-time in-person work immediately.
Yeah, I agree with this one too. I agree with federal workers going to work full-time. Now, let me try to take a person on the left, take their side on this. Hey, look, Doug, people can be just as productive and sometimes even more productive by working from home. And forcing them to go to work, it takes gas, it takes energy and time to go to work. Imagine having to go to the office and it takes an hour to get there, hour to get back. In that 2 hours, you can stay in your own home and get a lot of things done. If you're on the left, this is how you argue. This is what a person like me would say, yeah, you're right. But here's the problem. A lot of people on the right don't think that a lot of people on the left know how to even work and that they need to be held accountable. If you want to get things done, I'm telling you the perspective of the right. So don't shoot the messenger. The perspective of the right is if you want to get something done and done quickly, you ask a Republican because they don't care about anybody's feelings, whatever. They just march forward and get it done. With someone on the left, we need to have an environmental impact study. We need to be comprehensive. We need to be nuanced before we move forward because we might make a mistake. And of course, you need a balance of the two. But this is the perspective from the right.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have a directive to every department and agency in the federal government to address the cost of living crisis that has cost Americans so dearly.
Yeah, but what is it? What's the executive order? To just address it? I guess that's fine if you're just admitting we're going to address it.
The next item here is the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty.
Yes. The Paris Climate Treaty, in my opinion, from someone on the right, and I think I share this view from many people on the right, is that it's a wealth transfer from rich countries to developing nations, to poor nations. That it mostly will not do anything for the climate. It's just a wealth transfer. And I think a lot of people even admit climate change is happening, that it's even caused by humans, but they're not alarmists. They think we got tons of time to deal with any potential problems that may arise. And so it's not an urgent thing. And so therefore, this wealth transfer from rich nations to poor nations need not happen. Like, poor nations are poor for a reason. They made mistakes. You say that to someone on the left, and they might have an aneurysm. No, it's because the United States and other Western nations have stolen and raped their natural resources and blah, 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 blah. Oh, that could be true, or maybe they just don't know how to do things and they screwed up.
Yes, sir.
You might be right, Christian Gadfly. Good point.
We're going to save over $1 trillion by withdrawing from that treaty.
I like saving money, especially if it's a trillion. And for all the people on the left who say, oh, I can't believe climate change is one of my big issues. Well, think of it this way. Look on the bright side. Let me present the bright side for you. The climate's dying because of us humans. If we do nothing about climate change, eventually most of the humans will die off, and they'll be better for the climate. Right?
And the next item, sir, is a letter that will be transmitted to the United Nations explaining that we are withdrawing from the Paris Climate Treaty.
I don't know why you need two separate executive orders for that, but the United Nations is not going to like that.
Thank you, sir. This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward.
Destiny. I love this one. So Destiny would say something like, but no one's against free speech more than Donald Trump. Well, okay, maybe you're right. But at least he's representing a party who supports the government's keeping their noses out of other companies, private companies like Facebook, former Twitter, and other social platforms, Instagram, and so forth. In the arena of ideas, freer speech is better than less freer speech. And you ought to, in my opinion, allow people to say things that are highly uncomfortable, even controversial, even conspiracy theories. You ought to allow people to say those things. Why? Because maybe, just maybe, they're right. Conspiracy theories are sometimes right. And sometimes what you think is misinformation turns out to be true. People in the live stream chat could give examples, if they wish, of things that they've heard in the past that were labeled as misinformation ended up being correct. And we have to allow saying things that cause people mental anguish. We have to allow saying things that cause people mental anguish. Why? There's some atheists who watch this channel, although most of them have left because they don't like me. I've said many things that could be perceived as negative towards Christianity, Judaism, Islam. And I'm sure at least once or twice I've caused mental anguish. Do these atheists want me to stop causing mental anguish in theists by speaking what I think is the truth? And they agree with that it is indeed the truth, that certain things about these religions are false. Of course you want me to speak freely about these things. But Doug, those things are harmful. What I want to censor is things that people say that hurt other people's feelings other than Christians. Okay, be a hypocrite.
And lastly, sir, before we go back to the Oval Office to sign a large number of other items, is a directive to the federal government ending the weaponization of government against the political adversaries of the previous administration, as we've seen.
Yeah. Who doesn't agree with that? The U.S. government, the DOJ, shouldn't be used as a weapon against political rivals, right? I think both sides of the aisle agree with that. Now, if Destiny were here, or if I ever talked to him about this, but then he'll bring up Trump firing a lot of people at the DOJ, and he would say something like, you shouldn't fire people simply because they have different political leanings as you. And I would agree, you shouldn't fire people simply for that reason. But it's understandable to fire people who try to put you in jail, who really don't like you, who think that you actually raped a woman. I mean, Like if I was a boss of a company and someone thinks I'm a rapist and ought to be in jail, do you think I'd want him working for me? Do you think? No. No. This is a great signature.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, let's watch some more here. Here he's signing executive orders and answering questions at the same time. Again, I cannot see Biden or Harris doing this. But maybe they could.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe they
Thank
could.
you, sir.
They probably
Okay, we're signing a regulation bill, and you might want to discuss it, please. Somebody could
So the
explain it.
left
This is an
channel is
executive
louder than the
order
right channel.
called Unleashing Prosperity Through Deregulation. So it slashes unnecessary regulations, which will put more money in Americans' pockets, unleash economic growth, and guarantee that the United States of
I hope it gets
America
louder at some point.
remains the strongest competitor on the world market. And in order to achieve that, this order requires a rigorous regulatory budget process. So for each new regulation issued, at least 10 prior regulations will be identified for elimination.
So 1 for 10. And that's never been done before. We came very close to doing it in the first term, and we'll be able to easily do it, I think, in this term, and that'll have a big
Do you
impact.
guys hear that? For every one new regulation in the federal government, 10 have to be removed. Oh, I love that. And again, people on the left won't like it, but people on the right tend to love things like that because it represents smaller government. Less into the private lives of companies and individuals. And let me appeal to the people on the left. Maybe some of these regulations do need to go, right? And they'll say, but Doug, maybe some of these regulations need to stay. Yeah, but this executive order says that if you want to have a new regulation, you have to look at all the regulations out there and find the 10 that maybe in a bipartisan way, we can all agree, yeah, this doesn't really apply anymore. Let's get rid of it. You know, you can at least think of it that way.
Impact on regulation, getting rid of so many ridiculous regulations. And very importantly, Doug Burgum and Catherine, incredible governor of North Dakota, as you know, and did a really great job. And I asked him to serve as the Department of Energy, the secretary, and he is...
Good distinction, Forte, not removed, identified for removal. So
He's agreed to do it, and in many ways, the United States, I guarantee it's going to prove to be correct, that the United States is very lucky to have them, because they're a great team. Marco Rubio, as you know, is going to make a tour of various countries and say, no, nothing. Not right now, no.
Not a negotiating tool?
No, it's not, no, it's a pure economic. We have a member and everything else.
skip forward for some reason.
What is your first priority as Secretary of Interior, sir?
Well, as you've heard President Trump say, we have to turn the ship around. If Interior was a public company, its stock would be in the tank. Revenue has been declining. Production of revenue for American taxpayers is down. The deregulation order, executive order, which President Trump just signed, extremely important because we have to shorten the time that it takes to build things in America. And not only do we have to produce more energy, we've got to produce more critical minerals in this country, and we're talking across the whole country, including Alaska especially, a big opportunity. Interior, if it was a company, has the largest balance sheet in the world.
Yeah, Amazon, Alaska, I should say. Why did I say Amazon? Alaska has some great natural resources that are currently untapped. Let's tap them. But the polar bears.
500 million acres of public land, 700 million acres of subsurface, over 2 billion of offshore.
What? Destiny is live on YouTube right now. He's welcome for call-ins. I think you have to join his Discord, then he'll let you in. I'm not sure.
acres. These are all assets that belong to the American people. We all talk about the debt that America has, this 36 trillion. We have perhaps hundreds of trillions of dollars of assets that we need to manage smartly, sustainably for the benefit and the use of the American people.
Mr. President, is there anything China, Canada, and Mexico can do tonight to forestall your implementation of tariffs tomorrow?
No, nothing. Not right now, no.
Not a negotiating tool?
No, it's not. No, it's a pure economic. We have big deficits with, as you know, with all three of them. And in one case, they're sending massive amounts of fentanyl.
Okay, this is a bit, let me critique my own party here. Is the main goal economic or is the main goal foreign policy? Now, of course, he's going to say both, but is it one over the other? Right now, it's making it sound like it's economic. But I've also heard him talk about the foreign policy issue with drugs entering our country.
Fentanyl, killing hundreds of thousands of people a year with the fentanyl.
Yeah, he is.
And in
Okay,
the other
he's
two
saying
cases, they're making it possible for this poison to get in, number one. And number two, we have big deficits, and it's something we're doing. And we'll...
Yeah, the budget trade deficit I looked up the other day with Canada, I think is 40 billion, 60 billion. We buy 60 billion or 40 billion more products from them net over what they buy from us. So Trump's trying to balance that out, and I'm not sure what the trade deficit is with Mexico.
We'll possibly very substantially increase it. We're not. We'll see how it is, but it's a lot of money coming to the United States. As you know, we have about a $200 billion deficit with Canada, getting close to $200 billion. They've treated us very unfairly. And I say, why should we be subsidizing Canada? It's wonderful. I have so many friends in Canada. It's a great place.
Is there a concession
But,
you're looking for, sir?
No, we're not looking for a concession. And we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. And with Mexico, it's the same thing. We have a $250 billion deficit, and we have a lot of people coming into the border, and now we've largely stopped that, but we've stopped that ourselves. I think they've done a fantastic job. You've seen the numbers. They've dropped to almost zero.
Yeah, if tariffs hurt the country, imposing tariff more than the country that's receiving the tariff or getting the tariff, then this policy manipulation tool wouldn't work. But it seems like it does work for many countries. It's similar to sanctions. You put economic pain on another country so they do what you want them to do. Tariffs is the same way. And so for anybody who leans left and says it will mostly harm the U.S. citizen, that's factually incorrect.
But we've suffered under the past administration for years and years. We've suffered with millions of criminals coming into our country. Criminals, people from jails from all over the world. They come through Mexico and they come through Canada too. A lot of them come through Canada, and a lot of fentanyl comes through Canada. And China makes the fentanyl. China. Yeah,
Mark Davidson, it hurts both countries. Okay, I can concede that, but can you concede that it will hurt the country that the tariff is imposed more? It will hurt them more if the tariff is imposed on them. And then what's that ratio? Is it 90-10, 80-20, 60-40?
China makes the fentanyl, gives it to Mexico, puts it through Canada, puts it through different places, mostly Mexico, but also a lot through Canada. And so all three haven't treated us very well.
There are significant...
Can I ask you about your meeting with NVIDIA? What did you talk about, and do you think you need to ban more of the chips that they're selling to China?
Well, he's a great gentleman, and I hadn't met him.
Care about NVIDIA.
He's the biggest in the world. We're going to be putting tariffs on steel and aluminum and ultimately copper. Copper will take a little
Mark
bit.
Davidson asked, why do we want to hurt Canada? Because Trump would say, because they're allowing fentanyl to cross the northern border and they're not taking any steps or enough steps to prevent that. And he would also say, because there's a trade deficit with Canada and they need to buy more U.S. products to balance that out. That's why Trump wants to cause mental anguish on Canada.
Longer. And it'll happen pretty quickly. It'll mean it'll be a great boost for our steel industry. It'll make our steel industry very strong. If I didn't put the tariffs on years ago on steel, which actually Biden left because there was so much money that they
That's
couldn't
important.
do anything about it, we would have lost. We wouldn't have one steel mill in this country if I didn't do that. We saved.
Yeah, so here's another good reason to have tariffs is that it saves jobs in the United States. Trump is claiming that if he wouldn't have put the steel tariff on in his first term, there wouldn't be any steel mills left in the United States of America. And Trump is claiming that Biden agreed with that tariff and left it on. If Biden thought that that tariff was harmful for society, he probably would have removed it if he was a good president, right?
The steel industry. So it was an honor to do it, and I think the people that love me most in the whole world are people that make steel. But we're going to be putting sometime
I think
this
that's
month,
false.
next month.
Trump
We're
Trump just said the people who love him the most are the people who make steel. But I think the people who love Trump the most are the black people.
be putting tariffs on steel and aluminum.
Doug, you can't
And
joke.
we'll give you an announcement as to what the exact date is. But it'll be a tremendous amount of money for our country, a tremendous amount. These are big numbers. And in addition to that, and you see the power of the tariff. I mean, the tariff is good. And nobody can compete with us because we have by far the biggest piggy bank. And
Yeah, he's right. And I made this exact comment the other day when I live streamed. United States is so big, so powerful, has so much products that are required for self-sufficiency, like energy and food, that no country can harm us like we can harm them economically.
so that'll take place very quickly. But also we'll be doing pharmaceuticals. And to bring our industry back, we want to bring pharmaceuticals back to the country. And the way you bring it back to the country is by putting up a wall, and the wall is a tariff wall. We were the richest country in the world. We were at our richest from 1870 to 1913. That's when we were a tariff country. And then they went to an income tax concept, and how did that work
Okay,
out?
this is
Fine.
interesting.
I mean, it's okay, but
What Trump is hinting at here is that the United States of America was the strongest in the late 1800s to the early 1900s before we even had federal income tax and we just had tariffs. So what he's hinting at here is maybe we should go back to that. Do I think that's even plausible or possible or feasible in the next 4 years? No. Maybe longer time frame in the future. Who knows? Like, imagine there was no federal income tax. How could the government run? Where would the money come from? There's many, besides tariffs, you could go to a consumption tax. Like Canada has both federal income tax, a marginal tax rate, tax brackets, all that sort of thing. And in addition to that, they have a general sales tax. Back in the 80s, Canada was in really rough shape with its debt situation, which now we are. And they had to impose a GST, a general sales tax of 8%, I believe. And that brought in so much revenue that Canada could get its deficit to GDP ratio back in line. And I think the United States might have to do the same thing, have a general sales tax based on consumption. Since I am not a spender, I'm a producer more than a consumer, I'm okay with consumption taxes. The reason why many people on the left don't like it is because it hurts the people who have to spend all their money just to survive. And so now they have to spend more. They have to spend more money to survive if you slap on another tax. And I get that argument. But in general, what a consumption tax does is it punishes spending and rewards saving. It's almost the complete opposite of our current model, which encourages spending and discourages savings. In fact, I remember when Obama was president, I remember him going in front of the cameras. Oh, it was after the 2008 housing crash, and the economy was in really rough shape. And I think he was talking about some type of stimulus package or whatever. And then he looked in the camera and he encouraged Americans to go out and buy stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, that's not what I would say. I would say, but bolt down the hatches, save your pennies, ask yourself if you really need something before you buy it.
Would have been very much better. So we'll be doing pharmaceuticals, importantly, and drugs, medicines, etc. All forms of medicine.
Craig Reed says that Canada and Mexico are meeting with the U.S. before Wednesday. A deal will be made, says Craig. Hey, Craig, I know you're a Christian. Did God tell you that? Because if he did, then I'll believe you. Because, God's never wrong. But if this is just your opinion, then my confidence is low. Tariffs will go into effect Wednesday. A deal will probably be cut before then. Well, maybe, maybe not. My personal opinion is I don't care either way. This is the advantage of, in life, if you can get yourself to a position where you don't need the government and you don't spend much, then you don't care about things either way. And I was raised Mennonite, and I don't spend money. Really rarely. Actually, what do I spend my money on? I do like good food. I like taking the family out to a nice restaurant. So I spend my money on good food. And yes, inflation and tariffs could possibly increase that. Okay, fine. But is it really going to hurt me? Like, food would have to increase another 100%. It would have to double again. And then I start feeling the pain a little bit. Because food is such a small percentage of my personal budget. I might have to, take the credit cards away from my wife a little bit more.
And pharmaceuticals. And we'll be doing, very importantly, steel. And we'll also be doing chips and things associated with chips.
And sir, what do you plan on talking with the Japanese Prime Minister about next Friday when you all meet?
Well, he's coming in next week. I don't know, he asked for a meeting, and I have great respect for Japan. I like Japan. Prime Minister Abe was a very close friend of mine. What happened?
Okay, there's no more executive orders. It's all Q&A. Here's some more.
Thank you very much for seeing me twice today. It's going to be quite an important signing, so we thought we'd let you watch. If we could, I'd ask Will to explain the first, but really more importantly, explain the second, and we'll start signing. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Just 2 items for your signature today. The first is the formal commission appointing Chris Rochelot to be the Deputy Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration.
Right.
And since the commissioner position since the administrator position is currently vacant, he will act as the administrator since he's now.
Oh, that's why that airliner went down with that helicopter. Because of this executive order. Trump is responsible.
Have an appointed deputy.
And he's a very capable guy.
Extremely experienced in aviation and highly regarded in the industry and in government.
Some ASMR.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Second, for your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA Administrator, in this case acting FAA Administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they are being hired into.
Amen.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir. Elevating competence over everything else instead of the DEI policies that were pursued by the Biden administration.
Okay, here, this is a very, it can be a very emotional, triggering type of topic, but I actually think there's agreement on both sides on this. We want the best people doing the jobs, right? Nobody disagrees with that. And the thing is, what makes people a little icky on this issue is, let's say the best people for the job for air traffic controllers. Let's say it's a blind study. You don't know their race. You don't know their names. All you know is you put them in the simulator and you got 1,000 people, you're going to hire 10 people. And out of the 1,000 people, the 10 people you end up hiring, you get to see for the very first time, and you realize they're all white males. My question to the far left is this. Why is that bad? Why is that bad? If everyone who is a pilot even are white males, if indeed they are the best, why is that bad? Are you racist against white men? You just don't like white men? This is how you handle people on the left when they start saying that there should be more opportunities for black people. We need to hire more black people. Yeah, more opportunities, great. But if the best people for the job happen to be all of a certain race, let's say all the best teachers in the United States happen to be Asian men, what's the problem with every single teacher in the United States from K through, well, maybe not K, let's say in high school, 9 through 12, are all Asian men? And there was some metric that we could all agree upon, some criteria that we could all agree upon. This is what makes a great teacher. And what makes a great teacher happens to be an Asian male. So what? You got something against Asians? I don't. Some of my best friends are Asian. And my best friend's black. So I can't be racist.
I think everyone understands that. And Obama.
Yes.
Both of them. Okay.
Andrew says the view diversity is intrinsically valuable for its own sake. But diversity of what? Diversity of what? So, diversity of skin shade? Diversity of the amount of melanin in your skin? Diversity of, I don't know, hair color? What do we want to be diverse on? Well, of course, you want to be diverse on points of view. The way you see the world. Yes. Do you think all black people see the world the same way? Have the same backgrounds? Do you think all Asians view the world the same way? Have the same backgrounds? So you want diversity of thought, of ideas. This is why the university system sucks right now, currently in the United States of America. Because you don't have a diversity of ideas. Sure, you might have black people and white people and Asian people and Hispanic people. But right now, in the United States, I think someone can fact check me on the numbers, but it's by far the vast majority of professors lean left politically. Where's the diversity of ideas and thought? Don't universities need to actively find DEI hires of conservatives? If you really want to be diverse? But are good at their job, of course, the best at their job. So if there's a tie in the university system between a woke left professor and a conservative right professor, and if you want diversity and they're equal in ability, I think you got to go with the conservative.
Much worse, not even a contest. What they've done is just crazy in so many other ways. Okay?
Mr. President, to be clear.
Yeah, and DEI actually hurts more than helps if you're basing diversity on skin shade, ethnicity, and that sort of thing. Because then people start to question whether or not you're really qualified. It happens all the time. You could probably come in here right now, click on the link and convince me, yeah, diversity, equity, inclusion can have benefits. Like that system. Yeah, you could convince me. But I would still say to you that the benefits don't outweigh the costs. That people will have in their head that question mark. Were they really the best one? Or did they really just want a lesbian firefighter?
Are you saying race or gender played a role in this tragedy?
It may have. I don't know. Incompetence might have played a role. We'll let you know that. But we want the most competent people. We don't care what race they are. We want the most competent people, especially in those positions. And
Jesse Selbert says that there were more male surgeons than female, and female surgeons are better. Okay, so given if that's a fact, that female surgeons in a certain, I don't know, type, there's many different types of surgery, are indeed better than male surgeons, then I would say that that's some type of, that's not racism, what is that? Genderism, sexism. That's sexism, and that we should investigate that and stop that. Right? I'm with you there.
You're talking about extremely complex things, and if they don't have a great brain, a great power of the brain, they're not going to be very good at what they do, and bad things will happen.
Ooh. If you don't have a great brain, you're not going to be good at what you do. Yeah. This is the type of talk that makes Trump unlikable to a lot of people on the left. Because the fact is, 50% roughly of the U.S. population has an IQ of less than 100. That's what they tell me. And some of them have an IQ less than 90, 80. Not a great brain.
There's long been concerns about the amount of congestion out of DC airport. Do you think that there's too many flights coming out of that airport?
No, I think we need very smart people running the flights and doing it. You know, the ones that aren't good.
Wait a minute. Did this take place after the crash or before the crash? This will be eerie. When did that crash happen? Was it 2 days ago? 3? It happened on... It was 3 days ago, right? Yeah, so this signing of executive orders must have happened after the crash, and that's why they're kind of talking about it a lot. That'd be freaky if they're talking about this before the crash happened. That'd be prophetic.
Either do one of two things. They'll have too many coming in and they can't handle it, or they'll have the people waiting up in the air, which everyone's been caught in that situation.
Wait a minute. Mark Davidson is telling me this was before the crash? This signing happened before the crash, and they're talking about aviation in DC and how inept it is? I'm starting to believe in God. Not only did Trump dodge that bullet, it's like God's telling him, save the people at DC airports. What? That can't be true. January 30th is when the crash happened, right? When did this signing happen? Forbes posted this, and they're pretty... No, this had to have happened after. Actually, hang on. I can find this out. I gotta know. Yeah, this happened after. You got me going there, whoever was in the live stream chat. You had me believing you for a bit. But this press conference, this signing happened after the crash.
And circling the airports for an hour, and that's no good either.
Mr. President, are you aware?
Military helicopter training flights
see?
that are flying around National Airport all the time. What's your view? Should they be rolled
Well,
back?
it's fine if they're in the right locations and if they're not at the same levels. I mean, if a plane coming in is at 300 feet or 400 feet and a helicopter's training at 300 or 400 feet, why wouldn't they be up 500 feet higher? So I certainly want, and that to a certain extent is the air traffic controller. Wait, please, wait just a second.
You feel like what happened last night was preventable?
I do, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And
Well, that's a kind of a stupid question. It's like asking, can an accident, let's say it's an accident, can accidents be preventable? Yeah, of course. You can be more of a defensive driver. I remember I didn't run a red light. I went through a green arrow and someone else ran a red light and hit me. It was totally their fault, but I could have prevented that. I was thinking about something else and I wasn't paying attention of who was coming and making sure that people were on the other side of the road were obeying the traffic rules. So I blame myself more than the person who broke the law and who was cited on the spot by a police officer. I still blame myself more because I'm the type of guy who takes responsibility for his own actions. Yeah.
Obviously, that was something that should not have happened, and we're not going to let it happen again. Yes, please.
Mr. President, on a slightly different subject, on your Canada and Mexico tariffs, will oil be included or excluded from those tariffs?
So we'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number two are the drugs, fentanyl, and everything else that have come into the country. And number three are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico. And we will really have to do that because we have very big deficits with those countries. Those tariffs may or may not rise with time.
Will oil be part of that, though, because we get oil from Canada?
Oil is going to have nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. Oil has nothing to do with it.
Oil has nothing to do with it. I think they announced 10% tariffs on oil. So I think Trump misspoke here or changed his mind afterwards.
You said being confident. Regarding Guantanamo Bay, you want 30,000 new beds there. Is there a possibility that will increase, or is 30,000 the
It
maximum?
could increase, yes.
What would be the maximum?
It depends, but there are countries that won't take back their criminals that they sent into us. You know, they sent them to us. They put them into the caravans, and they came in. As sure as you're standing there, they were sent by those.
I wonder how many people on the left believe that. The governments of other countries sent criminals to the United States. My guess is there's many people on the left who think that's total BS. My personal opinion is that it's probably true, but I'm not highly confident on it. I do think there's these NGOs out there who heard Biden's signal that we want a surge of immigrants to our border back in 2019 and said, let's get to work and let's get people on their way to the United States. These funded NGOs were helping immigrants come to the United States. I'm quite confident that happened.
Those countries, then they're going to be met very harshly with sanctions, etc.
And when are you hoping to have Guantanamo Bay, this new facility, up and running?
Yeah, some people on the left view Guantanamo Bay as a concentration camp and all this stuff. From my understanding, the Biden administration has been using that bay as a facility for holding immigrants already, and what Trump is doing is just expanding it. So I guess Biden was in charge of concentration camps as well.
It'll be up pretty quickly.
How much do you think it's going to cost?
Not very much. A lot of the structure is already there, as you know.
Mr. President, you said that confidence may have played.
It starts with Saturn says, I'm watching both PineCreek and Destiny, and I'm like, damn, I wish these guys would just talk about things together. I honestly think they would mostly agree on a lot of things. I think you're right. It starts with Saturn. Destiny is, he leans capitalist, so do I. He doesn't say that all socialism is bad, neither do I. I think there's a case to be made, but I just think there should be more capitalism than socialism. There's no pure capitalist society, no pure socialist society, at least not within the United States. And so we agree on a lot of the economic stuff. Destiny's main problem is he's mentally ill, especially if he's not taking his meds. And he kind of flies off the handle. He'll say things like, you know, I'm glad that Republican died behind Trump, like stupid stuff like that. And he's obsessed with January 6th. So that's another huge disagreement Destiny and I have is January 6th. I say January 6th when people were rioting and fighting, that was bad. But I don't view this as a huge threat to democracy. He would also say that the actions Trump took before January 6th with the fake electors, fake in quotes, and when he called the Georgia governor and said, find me 10,000 votes, I think that was highly unethical of Trump. He should never have done that. I would never have done that. I do not support that. All that being said, I still think Trump is the better president than Biden would ever have been, or Harris. Because he shares some of the values I share, like immigration being a big one, foreign policy, anti-critical theory, pitting races against each other, feel sorry-for-ism. The whole idea of marginalized groups needs to go away. The whole idea of seeing people through the lens of their shade of their skin needs to go away. That sort of thing. Putting razor wire on the border. Who's more likely to put razor wire on the border, Trump or Harris? If the answer is Trump, then you should say to me, Doug, you voted for the right guy, because that's what Trump did, and that's what's happening right now.
Played a role. Are you aware of any performance issues or disciplinary actions that were taken against anyone who was working the tower last night or flying the plane?
Tom Horvath says, does Trump realize it's the home country that pays the tariff? Tom, you must have just got here. Oh, I wish you would call in, because if it's true that it's the home country that pays the tariff and not the other country, then why is Canada retaliating? Trump has just is going to impose a tariff on Canada of 25%, 10% on oil. Why does Canada have a problem with that? If it's the home country, United States, that's paying the tariff, why are they retaliating if that's true? Answer me that.
No, and I hope that's not the case in this case, but certainly over the years it's been the case. And it's the case with respect to close calls, and it's the case with respect to circling for hours on end. You know, planes circle a lot, and they circle because the people bringing them down, these people that have to be very, very smart, and it's not based on anything other than the brain.
Okay, I'm going to switch to there's some channels I watch. I watch a lot of left-leaning channels. I also watch a few right-leaning channels. People always have this perception in their head that I'm all day, all you do, Doug, is you're watching Fox News. Untrue. Actually, I think all cable news networks are going down. Is Fox News going down? Do they have lower ratings? I'm not sure, but most people get their news nowadays through social media, for better or for worse. And Liberal Hive Mind is one of the ones I follow. He has 1.5 million subscribers. He always has a meme of the day. But he finds some great clips. Here's one clip from Bill Maher.
That Bill Maher tackled on his show.
You know, I mean, they asked him a question today, and I'm sure if you're of the type of person who just always hates the one team and loves what the other one does, they asked him a question about the crash. They said, will you visit the crash site? Now, every other politician would go, of course, it was a tragedy. And he went, it's the water. What do you want me to do, swim there? You know? And I was like, exactly. Right, you're exactly right. It's a stupid question, and you got just the answer you deserve.
You know, fine.
Yeah. This is why people like Trump. And even people on the left, they might not admit it at parties because then they'll be looked at funny. But even a lot of people on the left appreciate Trump's that's stupid. Why would I go visit the crash site? It's water. I can't see anything. It's underwater. Well, I guess there's some stuff floating on top, but...
Finally, we're getting some basic acknowledgement from the left that these so-called journalists are really political operatives. They're vulgar.
Over walls and so on.
That's true.
But
they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing
that.
They
weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. Right. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
Yeah, this guy was recently put on the graveyard shift at CNN, right? What's his name? And he didn't. The ratings at CNN have gone down so much that they really can't afford paying millions of dollars to these journalists, in quote. So this guy, I think, went private.
If I may ask, on the Russia investigation, are you concerned that you may have...
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Oh, is this from... yeah, Trump is fatter here, so this must be from the first term.
President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of the...
Okay, just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
We've been through these moments forever, and they've always been portrayed as Trump being the bad guy. You know, your typical lowbrow Midas touch video. Donald Trump gets absolutely destroyed by Jim Acosta. Well, finally, it seems like the leftists are waking up and realizing that they're on the wrong side of this issue.
You know what? If someone paid me enough money, I think I would spend a lot of time taking clips of news conferences, Trump saying something, and then putting side by side and analyzing the left's response to it and the right response to it. Because you guys have seen this. You could actually find people who, let's say, are progressives, Democrats, and they'll have this caption: Trump utterly demolished by such and such a journalist. And then you go to a conservative YouTube channel, Trump demolishes wacko woke journalist. They're looking at the same thing, and they have two completely different takes on it. It's a study on human psychology and behavior. It's a study on bias. It would be just amazing to start a whole series of YouTube videos just showing people looking at the exact same thing, the exact same evidence, and coming to completely different conclusions. It's fascinating to watch.
And Bill Maher just goes there and says, what a dumb question. I mean, what a stupid question. And Trump is right to respond in the way that he is. And you know, for years, they've tried to paint him as just some sort of unhinged maniac who hates being challenged. Oh, he just doesn't like being challenged by these journalists. He wants them to all fall in line because he's a fascist. But it's never...
Yeah, that fear-mongering of Trump being a fascist, it didn't work. It definitely didn't work with the Democratic Party, the Harris campaign trying it. And so I'm just curious when the Democrats are going to learn. Here's my tip. Don't tell any Democrats this tip. But if you actually want to start winning elections against people like Trump, start agreeing with him on some things. Get your credibility back. Say, Trump was right here. I like what Trump did here. Instead of just bashing everything he says, if you're a Democrat and you want Democrats to win, if that's your goal, if you're a woke progressive, if you're a progressive who loves people, who cares for the marginalized, actually start complimenting Trump on things that you sincerely think he did right. And then people on the right, or even people in the middle, will start to listen to you more. Because after you just start, you fearmonger and say Trump is a racist, he's horrible, he's blah, blah, blah. After a while, it becomes white noise. And nobody will listen to you. Now, Doug, you don't do that. Yes, I do that. When I hear people say things that I agree with, no matter what side of the aisle it comes from, in fact, I think I did it here tonight with Biden on the tariff thing, with the steel. And I said on the very beginning that I wasn't sure about that first executive order because the order was the removal of 74 of Biden's orders. And I would say, well, I can't say I'm for that because what if I agree with Biden? I'm not just going to assume I'm going to disagree with Biden on everything he does.
Never been the case. These people have acted in bad faith since day one. And that encounter...
Doug, did you watch Digital Gnosis expose you earlier today? No, I didn't. What was I doing? I was on Discord for a long time. Then I took a nap. Then I took a walk. It was in the morning. I slept in this morning because we're in a very different time zone. But you got to remember, Digital Gnosis is slightly mentally ill, unhinged. I worry about him, actually, to be honest, for his own mental health. He needs to get out more, which he did today, I think. He showed me a picture of him playing with puppies. Puppies are great. Animals are great if you suffer from any mental illness. So for the at least 50% of the online leftists watching, I think close to half have been diagnosed with some mental illness. You think I'm lying? You think I'm exaggerating? I think online Democrats, woke progressives, I bet, I can't prove this to you, I know that the national averages are 25, 30%. But I bet you in the online atheist community who lean left, it's probably higher than the national average. So north of 30%, and I'm going to guess half of the people on these Democrat leftist type atheist YouTube channels, half of them have been diagnosed with a pretty bad mental illness. And Nathan's no exception.
Counter, I think, is the perfect proof of exactly that. Try to imply that the president doesn't want to show up to the crash scene. Oh, he doesn't care. I mean, really? Trump is always on the scene. Whenever there's a disaster, Trump is there. He was there during the hurricane relief efforts, when Joe Biden wasn't. He was there when the border crisis exploded. Joe Biden never visited the border. Only in the midst of an election season did he do a photo op there. You know, Donald Trump is always like the first person on scene. Meanwhile, Joe Biden throughout his entire time in office was always napping. But did any of these fake news journalists ever ask Biden if he was going to be on the scene during one of these crises? No, of course not. The media gave him a pass each and every single time. But now with Donald Trump.
Yeah, so that's Liberal Hive Mind. One of my other favorite conservative type channels is called Black Conservative Perspective. What's that guy's name again? I forget. Oh, this looks interesting. We all love liberal tears.
I'm sorry, but Trump's a straight up monster. He really took the T off of LGBT for government websites. Like, he went out of his way to attack transgenders. Like, that's insane. So my question is, does he have any supporters from the LGBTQ plus community as of now? Like, because I know he did. I know there's a lot of LGBT.
Oh yeah, I would say Trump has a lot of supporters from the G's and the L's. L's is lesbian, right? G is gay. That means man. B means bi. I would say that anything that has to do with sexual preference. See, you got to understand something. In order to be a homosexual, sex has to exist. And not only exist, but as not a spectrum, but as a binary. In other words, if you are a man and you are sexually attracted to other men, in other words, you like the Johnson rod, that's what it means to be homosexual. The T, the trans issue, muddies that up and says there's no homosexual, there's homogenderal or something stupid like that. So Trump pushes back against there being a spectrum of sexes and that there's only two genders. In other words, gender is a synonym for sex and there's only two, male and female. The gay community, the lesbian community says, I agree with that Nazi. I agree with Trump. They won't say I agree with that Nazi because, of course, you can't agree with Nazis. But I agree with Trump. I mean, I don't want... let's say the guy's a homosexual. I'm a man and I like other men, and I don't want some woman showing up on my whatever social thing. No, sex is based on whether you have a penis or uterus for the purposes of fooling around, procreation or not procreation, but just getting, orgasms. I mean, I got to be careful how many words like this I say because they really tick some people off. And if you're a kid under 18, you shouldn't be watching this at all. And if you do, make sure your parents know.
Members of that community that support him and thought they still supported him. But as of today, I can't imagine that you guys still support him. If he's attacking one of you guys, one of your members of the LGBTQ members of your community, like, he's coming after all y'all. You realize that? Like, he's starting.
See, I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of this guy. How many actors pretend to be outraged? The world's falling, the sky's falling, the world's doomed. And how many of them actually believe this stuff? Because this is social media, and you want views, you want clicks. But I think it's fair to say that there's at least some people who think and act this way.
with the transgenders. And then he's going to make it so maybe gays can't like it. He'll bring that policy back where you have to keep it a secret pretty much.
See, just based on how this guy's acting, and if someone to say, Doug, I'll bet you $1,000 that this guy has been diagnosed with a mental illness, I'd say I'm not going to bet against that.
In the military and stuff like that. Remember how that used to be a thing? You had the no-tell rule or whatever.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got another fascinating topic to talk about here today, guys, as liberals, they're still boo, whining, and crying over some of the actions of the Trump administration. And we got to talk about the latest thing.
Any kind of knee-jerk reactions to the long-term impact until we know more.
So, Brandon, it's unclear if this is temporary.
Yeah. So on Discord the other day, I got to share a little story. There was a trans person there who insulted me, but in a joking way. Said I was dense or something like this. And I knew of this person a little bit, and I called this person a male woman. And immediately I was like, I'm the devil. But I told the truth. This person identified as a woman and was male. And sometimes when you tell the truth, it can really, really, really hurt. And then I said, hey, I was just joking around because you called me dense. And then, and I was polite. I called this person a she. But I also told the truth that, the first I asked, are you not a male woman? So here's my suggestion. If you talk to a trans person on this topic, ask them if it bothers them to be called if you're a trans woman, ask them if it bothers them to be called a male woman. And then if it's a trans man, ask them if it bothers them to be called a female man. And then let's wait for their answer. If they say yes, ask why. Because aren't you female? Yes. Aren't you a man? Yes. This is why you cannot separate sex and gender often. It's because they are so intrinsically linked. In order to say you're a woman or a man, it has to be linked and anchored in something outside your brain. Otherwise, it has no meaning. What does it mean to say, I experience manness, if it's not anchored to something external to you? What does madness mean? What does being a man mean? Now, you could say things like having broad shoulders, having facial hair and stuff like that, but we all know there's women with facial hair, right? Right, ladies? We all know there's women with broad shoulders, right? What really is this being a man experience? It reduces down to having a penis, having a uterus, having certain chromosomes, ability to produce certain sperm, egg.
Temporary or permanent. We did reach out to the CDC for comment. They did not get back with us in time for this story.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of people want to pay attention to because you have a bunch of marginalized people who feared that this would happen if President Trump got into office, which has happened. So it's been a very turbulent couple weeks for certain groups in our country. Sure. So we'll see how this continues to unfold.
I am so disgusted with them trying to remove the T out of LGBT. What the? You will never erase trans people. No matter how hard you try, you'll never, ever do it. It's truly.
Okay. Again, you're looking at mental illness, if this is real and not just an act. If you say you'll never, ever erase trans people, then why are you worried about people even trying? So you got to be more specific then. What are you worried about? If trans people can't be erased, then what's the problem? Because often I hear the problem is people are trying to erase trans people, but if they can't be erased, like it's similar to the Christian thing, God cannot be mocked. Then why are you worried if people mock God or try to mock God? He's not mocked. Same type of idea.
sickening. Trans people are doing nothing except trying to live their lives. Leave them alone.
I actually tend to agree with that. My problem is more with trans activists who try to make kids become trans, who want to take off or remove certain body parts at a very early age, or want to give them drugs to solve a certain problem. Do you know the gender affirming care for trans people, the removing of certain body parts? It's the only mental illness, the only mental problem where surgery is a solution. Can you guys name another one? Dysphoria is a problem. Dysphoria is not a leg problem or a kneecap problem or a nose problem. It's a mental problem. Dysphoria is a mental problem, and it's the only mental problem currently that I can think of where any type of surgical procedure is done. Now, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, there was lobotomies, but then they got rid of it. And I'm hoping and predicting that the same will happen with this whole trans issue.
Alone. Stop it. This is a crazy ass obsession. TDS actually stands for trans derangement syndrome. Because what the are y'all so obsessed with less than 1% of the population? How the are you guys so obsessed? Haven't you tortured them enough?
Yeah, the 1% of the population argument. I'm concerned about murder, and that's less than 1% of the population.
Really, at this point? Trying to take away their ability to even use a restroom? Taking away their health care? And now you literally want to wipe them off the face of the earth? And even if y'all don't...
No, nobody wants to wipe trans people off the face of the earth. Nobody wants to kill them. Well, I'm sure there's people who want to kill trans people, but I would say those are bad people and they shouldn't do that. Just like there's probably some trans people who want to unlive Donald Trump. I'm against that too.
Don't even give a about this community. You should give a that this man is spending all of this time, energy, resources, money,
I'm getting dizzy.
all of this to target 1% of the population. It makes no mother sense. It's insanity, especially when that man wears a wig every fucking day and wears more makeup than his wife.
This has to be an actor, right? Tell me, what do you guys think? Is this an actress or is this real?
I'm sorry for kind of freaking out.
Oh.
But this is demonic.
Demonic? Well, if it's demonic, my advice to this young lady is, if you're not a Christian, become one. And then just speak in the name of Jesus for Trump to go away, and it will be done. If Trump is a demon, if the Republican Party if they're demonic, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. Because demons can't be around you when you are full of the Holy Spirit and you speak in the name of Jesus.
To any trans person watching this, I love you. I stand behind you. I will protect you. They will never erase y'all, and you know that. And
He's wearing gloves. Must be a medical guy.
How could I have ever seen something like this coming? I mean, it's January 28th, 2025. And I've already known that I need to relocate from Florida to New York as a refuge for safety.
Okay, what do you guys think? Is this guy acting? I don't think he's acting. If he is acting, he's pretty good.
It's so overwhelming. I don't know where to start.
Yeah. Maybe start by removing all those piercings.
Not knowing what the government might do or make worse, the U.S. government, not New York. Or do you seek asylum in Canada?
I mean, I don't know if Canada is a great place to go right now.
Yeah, I always love it when Americans think that they could just choose to go to Canada. I mean, Canada has immigration laws too. They might say, no, we don't want you. Oh my goodness. I claim asylum in Canada. Why? Because Trump's trying to kill me.
Especially considering I think Canada is a great place to go. I think
other people and hearing about other people having, their documents confiscated and ICE going after these individuals because of who they are. And I'm trying to just, keep it, a level head and keep it cool. Not be.
It is so incredibly hard for me not to judge in a very negative way the parents of this kid. I would absolutely love a scientific study of kids raised in stable 2-parent homes, a husband and a wife, a man and a woman. You could even take atheist homeschoolers, different religions, do all the different religions, just good, stable homes where the parents are not crazy, where there's 2 parents that are not crazy, and see if you produce children like this guy, or this girl, whatever this thing is. Sorry, that was rude, but I honestly don't know. My guess is this is a female man. That's my guess. But I honestly would love to see a study to see how many kids turn out this messed up, this emotional, this unstable, coming out of stable 2-parent homes. I think they have some data on like 1-parent home, 2-parent homes. They also have some data on race and transness, I think. And I think a lot of them are white females. And the explanation for that is because people want to be loved. They want attention. They want to be loved, especially in the teenage years. And if you're not black, and if you're not Hispanic, if you're like white, it's like, how can I get attention? I know. I'm trans. Because I've always kind of liked girls anyhow, says the girl. And, I always thought they were cute. Or let's say you're a boy and you got narrow shoulders and you don't really have the masculine traits. Yeah, maybe I'm trans. Oh, how brave you are. Oh, we will help you through this. And you get the attention you desire. Gay man is your guess?
Emotional about what's going on. Been looking at, the Rainbow Railroad to...
Coherence asks a great question. PineCreek, let's say that we know that surgery and transition are the only treatment for dysphoria magic envelope. Would you accept as a valid medical treatment? Yes, but definitely after the age of 18. And why do I say that? Because even the diagnosis of who's trans and who's not is very subjective. What? Is it subjective? Yeah, I think it's subjective. I think you can't point to any one thing and say, oh, yeah, this person's definitely trans. So let's say you do surgery or transition on a person who says they are trans. Even the therapist says they're trans, and yet maybe they're not trans. Or in other words, if you let the clock unfold and time unfold, that they would naturally become cis. Here's another question for people on this topic. Why do trans people want to be cis? If this is just, if it's a real thing, if transness is a real thing that is natural, why can't they accept that their identity doesn't match their body? Just accept it. Well, because it hurts, Doug. If you want to be a woman and you see a penis dangling there, you have bad feelings. Okay, but I'm serious. Like, how bad are these feelings? I wish I had a full head of hair. Just after a while, you get used to it. In fact, I started losing my hair when I was 14, very early. And I could tell you some traumatic events of how people teased me, where I went home crying. Yeah, like, should I at age 14, because of my mental anguish, now have gone through surgery? No. I still say wait. The same holds for trans people. This is one of the big differences between, I think, the right and the left, is the tolerance for mental anguish.
Which is that?
The Rainbow Railroad. Is that like the Underground Railroad?
The Rainbow Railroad.
The Rainbow Railroad. What? Oh my God! Wow.
By the way, this guy is a pretty staunch conservative. I've been watching him for a while. We're pretty similar in a lot of ways. Well, I've gone an hour and a half and nobody's called in. Sad. So sad. Okay, I'll read some comments. Or focus on the comments a little bit more. Coherence says, sure, I'm fairly suspicious of pre-18 transition as well. Thank you, Coherence. We are agreed on that, as well as so much identity development. But let's say we had another envelope that said the given person was really trans. Yeah, then I might change my mind. If a machine can tell a person is trans or not, my view on this issue changes a lot. But I bet you many trans people would be against a machine that said they were for sure trans or not. So let's say a trans person says, I was assigned male at birth, but I'm a woman. And they go through a MRI machine, and the MRI machine says, no, you're not trans. How dare you, this machine, disagree with my lived experience? That's what will happen. Good show, Doug. JR was asking in a few days, where have you been? Where have you been? To be honest, I don't feel the need to live stream much anymore. I'm very content in my life, happy. I'm very happy what I'm seeing with Trump and the administration in the first, what do we got, 12 days? Yeah, 12 days, 11 days, 13 days. And I'm tired and bored of the atheist, theist thing. I feel no need to tell Christians to stop being a Christian. I feel no need even in the United States of America to stop Muslims being Muslims, as long as they're peaceful, doing their productive job, productive members of society. I love the Jews. I've always loved the Jews. I don't want Jews to stop being Jews. If anything, I think a lot of atheists online that I have witnessed, I think a lot of them need religion. I mean, a different religion, not woke secular humanism. I think they need something more powerful, a bigger placebo. I'll even say it. I think a lot of woke, progressive, left-wing, online atheists need Jesus. They're so screwed up. Walk with the Spirit says, I love atheists. They're so funny. Well, thank you. Well, hang on. Walk with the Spirit. I'm one of the few funny ones. The rest of them try to be funny. I think you're wrong about the Muslim part, though. In America, I don't think I am, but in the world, yes, I agree. If I could choose the best religion for the world, Islam would be the bottom of the list. But I do like some aspects of Islam. What I do like about Islam, more specifically what I do like about Sharia law, is that they don't tolerate theft. I really like that. Christianity is a little too, parts of it is a little too lovey-dovey for me. Like if someone steals a car, if someone steals my car, I don't want them to go to prison for that. I want them to hold out their hand and someone come in with shears, trimming shears, and chop off their left pinky if they're right-handed without any anesthetic and say, don't do that again. And then let them go. Why spend the money to buy them food and housing in the jail cell? Just let them experience extreme pain for a few hours. And then everybody who sees a person without a left pinky knows they're either a carpenter or a thief. They're either a bad carpenter or a thief. And I bet you I'd say at least 40% of the American public have no problem with what I just said. That they rather chop off the left pinky than put thieves in jail. Because I can almost guarantee that a thief will think twice before doing it again. Because if they do it again, guess what? Another finger comes off. So if you see a guy walking around with no fingers, well, he's probably no longer a thief. Or it's really hard to grab things. 4,000 years ago, you'd be stoning peeps. No. Peeps? What do you mean by peeps? Murderers? I don't think you should stone a thief, for example. I don't think you should stone a adulterer. Now, murderers, I do think that capital punishment acts as a pretty good deterrent. Just like cutting off the pinky does. So anyhow, getting back to Islam, yeah, I think Islam is a terrible religion, but there are aspects of it I like. You can say that about any religion, I think. If I ever were to become a theist, I probably would become a Jew. Because Jews are funny. They're highly successful. They have high tolerance for mental anguish, been very persecuted for thousands of years and still have a strong sense of identity. Doug, the thief should become your slave until he's paid off the value of the car. Well, that's assuming I don't get the car back. If I don't get the car back, then I should get the monetary value of the car. But my slave, no, that's too much work. I don't want to have to deal with telling a slave what to do. Plus, I'm against slavery. But I'm not against the removal of a pinky. Poof. My apologies to Destiny, the YouTuber. He was scheduled to come on, but we ran out of time.